You are now tuned into the People Before Politics radio show, brought to you by the good folks at
Black Westchester, Black Westchester, Black Westchester, Black Westchester. Check the newspaper. Black Westchester, Black Westchester, Black Westchester. Check the newspaper.
Real talk for the community since 2014. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh, it's afternoon. I'm sorry. Good afternoon. We welcome to a special edition of the Black Westchester Power Hour. This is part 2 of our State of the Union address review. Today I have as my special guest Cheryl Brannan, who was there live in person as a guest of Senator Schumer. Welcome to the show, Cheryl.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
So, and we had Pastor Poe on the other day. He was a guest of Congressman Jamal Bowman. And I said the reason I wanted to do this, you see MSNBC, you see all those other shows, and they have all these other people talking about, but we had 2 African Americans from my community that were there, and I wanted to bring y'all on the show and have the same conversation. So
Sure.
tell me how it was. That was your first State of the Union. Tell me how it was being there for the first time for the State of the Union.
Sure. It was great. I enjoyed it very much. I've been down to the White House and to some of the House buildings in the past, just participating in the Congressional Black Caucus activities over the years. And certainly when the Obamas were in the White House, we taken our girls and some of our board of directors down to the White House. So it was, not totally unfamiliar, but I had not actually been in the Capitol, 1, and 2, I had never been to a State of the Union address. So it was very impactful, walking through the halls of the Capitol and, of course, seeing all of the press, looking at some of the faces and recognizing them, looking totally different in person, of course, than they do on television. And it was, and then actually being in the gallery was nice. I mean, it was much smaller than I expected. I was like, oh, gee, I got one of the very few tickets to be in here. So it was very impactful.
And as Pastor Poe was saying, each one of them gets one guest, and you were his one guest. Jamal, the congressman, and they all get one guest to bring.
Sure.
You were Senator Schumer's one guest. That's special in itself too.
Oh, you're kind, and certainly Congressman Bowman is my congressman as well, and he was very, very supportive. I had been in touch with his office earlier on. His staff was marvelous. They set up appointments for me to meet with certain people that I thought could help support the causes that STSI advocates for. So he gets one, but Senator Schumer, as the majority leader of the Senate, he gets a few more.
Oh, okay. So it's the congressman that only get one. Okay. I know. Yeah, I think the congressman only get one then. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was so happy to see that he had selected Pastor Poe, and I was just happy that I was able to not only get support from the Schumer team, who were fabulous, but also to get great support from Congressman Bowman, who was right on the case as well.
So you, unlike a lot of people, you were in the room where we had that nasty insurrection. You were in the room, you were in the building. How, did you, I know you probably didn't think about it when you were there, but did it hit you like this is that place where you had that January 6th situation? Did that ever hit you?
Yeah, it did. And the building is just so beautiful. I mean, the architecture, And, not only, of course, outside, but inside, just, all of the engravings, and it's just the sculpture. It really is beautiful, a beautiful building. And what really hit me in large part was being in that huge rotunda where
Yes.
we had, certainly, monumental people like John Lewis lay in state. I had to like really stop in that room and just kind of look around and take it in. It's circular, it's huge. And again, all of the great craftsmanship. Yeah, so it was quite an experience. But I also got to tell you, I was saying to myself, what? And these crazy people came in here, on January 6th and just kind of, did whatever they wanted to do to, not only attack our democracy, but just this beautiful building. So yeah, it was like, it definitely hit me in that regard. That really took a lot of nerve and a lot of guts to say, I'm going to come trampling in this building because I don't agree with the outcome from an election.
Right, right, right. How was it different? You touched upon it a little bit. How was it different being there in person and watching it on TV like most of us do?
Yeah, it was, for example, I sat next to, not far from the president's segment in the gallery in terms of the first lady and the first gentleman.
Oh
And
wow!
then they had as special guests, typically, and during this most recent session, of course, they had Tyrone Nicholas and his parents.
Right.
So that was very, touching to see them there. And, but it was nice to see, of course, that the president was advocating for police reform. And, we know that, we need to have the John Lewis Justice Act adopted and so on. But, obviously it's sad to see families there, and especially, the way, he had, what he had undergone. So it was the people like him and, others that were guests of the First Lady that were in the gallery as well. So very impactful in that regard.
I'm going to play a video put together by the Washington Post. It's highlights. It's a almost 4 minute video, highlights of Biden's speech, and then on the other side of it, we're going to comment on some of the topics he talked about.
Sure.
We're often told that Democrats and Republicans can't work together. But over the past 2 years, we've proved the cynics and naysayers wrong. We're building an economy where no one's left behind. Jobs are coming back. Pride is coming back. Now, some members here are threatening, and I know it's not an official party position, so I'm going to exaggerate, but threatening to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act. As my coach, that's okay. That's fair. As my football coach used to say, lots of luck in your senior year. Make no mistake, if you try anything to raise the cost of producing jobs, I will veto it. The climate crisis doesn't care if you're in a red or blue state. It's an existential threat. We have an obligation, not to ourselves, but to our children and grandchildren, to confront it. A lot of you at home agree with me and many people that you know. The tax system is not fair. It is not fair. Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see my administration has cut the deficit by more than $1.7 trillion, the largest deficit reduction in American history. Under the previous administration, the American deficit went up 4 years in a row. Let's recognize how far we came in the fight against the pandemic itself. While the virus is not gone, Thanks to the resilience of the American people and the ingenuity of medicine, we've broken the COVID grip on us. But what happened to Tyree and Memphis happens too often. We have to do better. Give law enforcement the real training they need. Hold them to higher standards. Help them succeed in keeping us safe. Ban assault weapons now. Ban them now. Once and for all. If we don't pass my comprehensive immigration reform, at least pass my plan to provide the equipment and officers to secure the border. And a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those on temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Congress must restore the right that was taken away in Roe v. Wade and protect Roe v. Wade. Make no mistake about it. If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it. Putin's invasion has been a test for the ages, a test for America, a test for the world. Would we stand for the most basic of principles? Would we stand for sovereignty? Would we stand for the right of people to live free of tyranny? Would we stand for the defense of democracy? There's no place for political violence in America. We have to protect the right to vote, not suppress the fundamental right. Honor the results of our elections, not subvert the will of the people. We have to uphold the rule of law and restore trust in our institutions of democracy. And we must give hate and extremism in any form no safe harbor. We're the United States of America, and there's nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
Yeah, so that was a recap of the State of the Union, courtesy of the Washington Post. There's a couple of things that stood out, but I wanted to know what stood out to you, and what when you heard some of those things, what was going through your mind?
Sure. Well, in terms of the economy coming back, that was a big deal, of course. When he talked about the number of jobs that were established under his administration, that was very important because obviously, that affects our community in large part, although we don't always have the same impact in terms of additional jobs and things of that nature in our community. It certainly is good when it's trending in a positive direction. So that was impactful. Of course, Roe versus Wade and overturning that, and when the justices walked on the floor, which they typically do at the beginning before the president comes in, when Judge Ketanji Brown came in, she was the last one, and she got like a huge roar in terms of applause. So I was very happy, to look down and see her. And when you're looking down from the gallery, I mean, you really, I'm seeing many of the electeds that I know or that I've seen on TV, and they're all, sort of getting together, hugging and doing selfies and so on. So just kind of hanging out, milling around, etc. So that was very impactful, the Roe versus Wade. The climate, in terms of saying that, there are no blue states and red states as it relates to climate. And we all know that that's a big issue in our community, and that, we really need to be concerned about it. And especially with our young people, we've got to get them more indoctrinated. I know we at Sister to Sister International moving in that direction for our girls in our STEAM programming. Medicaid and Social Security and the sunset. I thought he just finessed, the president finessed the crowd on that, because he's like, well, from what I've seen, you want it to sunset. You want us to come back every 5 years to vote on whether or not it should be accepted, and to sort of recalibrate. And they're like, oh, no, 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 we're not. So, you heard that sort of response.
Is
But
it so?
then,
So y'all are all dealt. Y'all are all dealt. We're gonna all pass this now, right? And
right.
they say,
So then he came back and he did what I call he made the close. So it's like, oh, so you're saying that you're upset about that and you're not going to do that. So then are you saying that you are for Social Security and Medicare and making sure that Americans have the right and that we're not trying to sunset it? Is that what you're saying? And so then, of course, they're like, yes. So it was kind of like, well, gee, I think you made the sale, Mr. President. And as it relates to moving forward, you got some footage that you got people, certainly on record, these Republicans at the point saying that they are, in fact, for Medicare. So I just thought it was, and then banning the assault weapons. I mean, that's just like a no-brainer. And again, that was something that was raised that I thought was important. And then just the pandemic. I mean, when we reflect back on what was happening with the pandemic, going back, 2 years ago and so on, it was just like, it was crazy, totally different. And now we've seen, this administration handle certainly the vaccines and really begin to slowly bring us out of it. So I thought that, that was masterful as well. So very, very impactful overall. I thought the president did a great job.
what were your feelings? I know a lot of us watching TV, but being there and seeing some Republicans openly disrespect the president in person and calling him a liar. Like, I know that a lot of people didn't agree with Trump. A lot of Democrats didn't agree with Trump, especially since he told a lot of provably false lies. But no one really called him out like that. Like, you still respected the position of the president because that's what it is. And to have so little disregard, what was going through your mind when you were sitting there seeing that and hearing that in person?
Well, first of all, it did happen under President Obama's administration.
Well, I know they called him a liar too. They actually,
and they just tried to disrupt his speech. So certainly not the first time that disrespect has been shown for the office. But being there, was kind of like, it was upsetting in some regard, but not really, because, oh, by the way, we become almost immune to the disrespect, whether it's January 6th or whatever. It's almost like, the way of the world. And again, what it says to me is it's just that much more important that we continue to make sure that we uphold this democracy and that we uphold the ideals and that we ensure that people of African descent and others are getting our just due now more than ever. So that's what it meant to me. I mean, the disrespect, in my opinion, is actually not new, unfortunately.
It definitely wasn't new. And I think it was more and more blatant because it was, when that one person called Obama, it was like, you're lying or liar.
Right,
it wasn't as frequent. It wasn't, and as the first Black president, there was some of that. But this was just more blatant. It was like more like, just little disregard to the point that the speaker was like, shh.
Right.
4 times. I was like,
exactly.
I found that. I also saw one part where the speaker, I don't know if you saw it, I was watching the recap. Everybody stood up. The Democrats stood up, and McCarthy started to clap, and then he caught himself, and he was like rubbed his hands because it shows me he actually agrees. But then there's his party, that members of his party, that he can't show that. You know what I'm saying? And that's got to be a sad place to be in. But yeah, he actually went to clap and then caught himself. And,
yeah. Well, I think, when you do the analysis, we see that he really just has very little control over his party. There's so many different directions, so many different factions. And, with such the very slim margin that he has of power right now, he wants to try to keep everybody happy. And in my opinion, that's going to be almost
It's a recipe for disaster,
unachievable.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what would all politics are local. What would you say? What did you hear that could apply to us here in Westchester, to the Black community, that resonated with you?
Well, the policing resonated with me, and ensuring that we pass bills like the John Lewis Policing Act, to make sure that we do, in fact, uh, use different tactics as it relates to policing. One of the things that I've heard of late, which I think is, very impactful, is now documenting the number of stops that police actually make on people, in terms of, even if they're the smaller quote unquote infractions, but every time you stop somebody, that needs to be documented, because I think we all know, when we look at the system and when we look at racism, that quite often what led to Tyre Nichols being killed in such a bombastic fashion was those little cuts, those little things that we do. So those little microaggressions in the process. So, first I'm just pulling you over, and as a police, I start to pull over a lot of Black people. And then, one thing leads to the other, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, you have a Tyre Nichols situation. So with that said, again, the policing, I thought, was something that was very important. And then also ensuring that when we send police out, sometime that we also send a social worker or someone who has, that background, because that's important. And then, of course, the Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, money is money is money. And, obviously that affects the Black community. And then one of the other things that they talked about, that the president talked about, were what they call these sort of infractions. They call them sneaky fees. And the
Yes.
sneaky fees, yeah, where, you buy, a ticket, and the next thing you know, it's got this fee on it and that fee on it. And you thought from the beginning, I thought I could afford this. And by the time, Ticketmaster puts this fee and that fee, and by the time the hotel puts this fee and that fee, it's a totally different ballpark. So I was very impressed that, the president talked about those and trying to eradicate them and hold businesses accountable, because they really are a big part of America's, consumer economy as well.
I had a recent situation. I brought something online. It was a one-time purchase, but every month after that, I got a charge. I didn't get the product. Like, it wasn't like I kept getting more of what I brought. I wasn't getting
Right.
anything. I was just getting a charge
Sure.
every month for $29.99.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I had to, there was a big fight to stop that. Like, it's easy for them to do it some kind of way, because I didn't sign up for any recurring anything. I didn't sign up for any of that. And,
Right.
I lost over $100 before I was able to get it stopped. You know what I mean? So,
Absolutely. Yeah, it
you
makes
know,
a difference. And then just two other things I want to bring up,
mhm,
certainly as part of my advocacy, and that's Roe versus Wade. Again,
mhm.
I mentioned it earlier, but here in New York, we don't have the same impact, because we've got the New York State legislature, including, of course, Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins, and the entire state delegation, or most of the state delegation, that have approved the legislation that gives women the opportunity to have to make decisions over their right to choose. However, when we look at southern states and various other states across the country, whether it's Mississippi, you name it, women don't have the same right. And so we want to make sure that women do have the right, they do have autonomy over their bodies, and they're not being pushed into having to keeping their babies if they feel that it's not the best decision for them. So that's one. And then secondly is Black maternal health. We know that Black women are dying 3 and 4 times more than our white counterparts. And that was part of why I was invited based on my advocacy through Sister to Sister International and our various community partners. And we want to make sure that whether it's the Momnibus Act or whatever the possibilities are, that we have the resources that are certainly applied and invested so that Black women can have what they need to battle the social determinants of health and have successful births, and overall to have successful, to increase successful birth outcomes across the gamut. So that's, what we're hoping for.
The documentary that I shared that you were screening, and I think we interviewed some of the people. That really, like, while I knew it was going on, seeing it and hearing from the family members, and it impacted me in a whole nother way. Like,
Yeah.
just that was a very important thing. I think everybody should view. What's the name again, so we can tell everybody to
Sure.
watch it and where they can watch it?
Sure. It's the Aftershock.
Mhm.
And it chronicles in this documentary the loss of two Black women, one in the Bronx and one in Brooklyn, who actually died from situations that were preventable. And the real key is that it not only impacts, of course, the loss of the loved one, and because in both instances, the children live, but the mothers passed away. But in terms of the overall impact, you have the fathers, you have the extended family, and all that have to come together to try to raise the child and deal with the grief. So when we did our screening of Aftershock, Bruce McIntyre, who was the father of one of the sisters that passed away, he actually created a foundation, the Save a Rose Foundation, and we collected funds in support of him. But we also were able to get some funding for one of our community partners, Birth from the Earth, and Nubia Earth Martin, and she was in the film as well. And part of what the funding that we're getting from the county is going to do for her and her programming is to bring the entire family in, because it really is a family affair, and birthing as well as loss impacts the entire family. So yeah, and it's going to be screening again at one of our community partners, one of our leaders, Cheryl Hunter Grant, is working with the Peekskill NAACP, and they have a screening coming up, I believe, next Saturday. And I'm happy to share that with you as well, AJ, to share with
Absolutely.
the audience, because it really is a very impactful film. And we do want as many people in the public and advocates to see it and really understand what it's all about.
I had the pleasure of watching it, and it definitely was impactful. Also, I had the pleasure of interviewing Nubia and a few others, and I think you were in that interview. I think you
Yes,
did with Race Talks.
absolutely.
It might have been with Race Talk Revolution or something.
Absolutely. Race
Yeah,
Talk. And
yeah.
Cheryl Hunter Grant as well. Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I definitely wanted to highlight that, and I know we've covered you work Senator Schumer working with you to bring funds to, I think, was it St. Joseph or
St. John's Riverside Hospital.
St. John?
Senator
Right.
Schumer has been a great advocate, helping us to bring funds to renovate the maternity ward there, make it more culturally relevant, and to support anti-bias training there as well, and also to support listening sessions in the community so we can better understand what the population, Black women, are feeling, and certainly create programs to help support their overall success. And also Congressman Bowman has been working with us in St. John's Riverside Hospital and the emergency ward, and he's been a great supporter as well, in addition to, of course, Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins, who actually introduced us to St. John's Riverside Hospital. So we've had a great working relationship with all of our electeds, in addition to, of course, all of the great advocacy that Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins has provided as well.
I applaud you for all that you do, which is why, in a little self promotion, you are in my book. That's is that right now? Where Black Westchester celebrates Black women of Westchester, and I was trying to give a lot of you your flowers while you're alive, and
Thank you.
celebrate those that are not here anymore. And yeah, any last words about the State of the Union, or and then I want you to let everybody know, tell them a little bit about Sister to Sister, how they can be involved, any website,
Sure.
social media, follow you, and all that stuff.
Sure. Well, first of all, let me just say it's an honor to be a part of your book, and I think it's you've been doing a great job with all of your publications, and I look forward to reading it. So, thank you so very much for that. In terms of Sister to Sister International is on the move. We are an organization that links women and girls of African descent to various resources, and we aim to motivate, to educate, and to teach Black women and girls how to advocate for themselves. We promote equity, we promote inclusion, and we are proponents of undoing racism. We did some seminal research about 2 years ago on this and created a report, The Status of Black Women and Girls in Westchester County. It focused on 4 pillars: juvenile justice, juvenile and social justice, entrepreneurship, pay equity, economic prosperity. And underneath the economic prosperity and entrepreneurship pillar, we have a marvelous Black business directory. And you can go to our website, s2si.org. That's S, the number 2, si.org, and check out our Black business directory. We're all about promoting Black businesses, and happy to partner certainly with you, AJ, and Black Westchester in your great work over the years. Our third pillar is STEAM and STEM. Sister to Sister International has been in the forefront of supporting and advocating and promoting STEAM and STEM now for over 10 years. We have a STEM camp for Black and girls of color, as well as a year-round STEAM academy. So again, we encourage you to log on to our website, s2si.org, to hear more about that programming. And then, of course, we have our fourth pillar, which is juvenile and social justice. And we're doing great work, certainly with Pat White, Dr. Darlene Russell, Dr. Alexandria Connolly, who are helping to lead that effort. And we are helping parents learn how to advocate for equity and advocate for their children, which is so very important in this climate. So we've got various webinars that are supporting that, as well as just lifting up the ACEs to make sure that, again, people can point to them, how to navigate, of course, the codes of conduct in school. So we got a lot on the table. And so we encourage people who are interested in working with any of those 4 pillars to join us, because we've got great leaders. We have work group meetings, and we continue to develop the strategies and implement them and make a difference here in Westchester County.
I thank you for your time, and I just want to co-sign what you're saying. For those who, I don't know who doesn't know you, but for those who don't know you, this woman here is doing great work. Her organization, I've seen the work they do firsthand. I've attended some of their events. I just applaud you. I celebrate you, and you know, we need more people to do. Lead me to the last thing I wanted to say. I like to lead people with a call to action. Like, you know, we depend on our elected officials to do too much, and politics is a participatory sport, and we don't always play our part. So after the president's State of the Union, what call to action would you leave us with, the people?
Well, the call of action would be to get involved with one of the movements here in Westchester County. I mean, I just talked about the 4 pillars that STSI is working on. We talked about policing, police reform. We talked about health and wellness, maternal health. We talked about advocacy and education. So, whether it's with Sister to Sister International, or whether it's with Black Westchester, whether it's with one of our sororities or fraternities, or whatever the case might be, one of our nonprofits, tag into these issues. We can't sit on the sideline and expect change to just happen. And those of us that are on the front lines, we need others to join us. We're not trying to do this forever. I'm certainly not. I'm grooming the next generation. But we do need people to, one, put their dollars, make a donation, help,
Yes.
help support what it is we're trying to do, one, financially, and two, see how you can plug in and be a volunteer and help do what I call keep the train moving. Because it really, is up to all of us. And, and on that note, I just want to say that I have a remarkable team that I work with. I have a board of directors that is second to none. And the leaders that lead our work groups, they are so passionate, so accomplished. And, we've got great process. We don't waste time. We've never been about wasting people's time. Certainly that's not been my philosophy. We've got marvelous consultants supporting us and great allies in terms of community partners. So I like to say we can't lose with the stuff we use. So on
Absolutely.
board
Absolutely.
to Sister International and support us.
If you didn't already, give the website again and how people can contribute to. We need to support. I always say, everybody got a part to play. Everybody's not going to be on the front lines, but even those who are not on the front lines, we need to support those who are on the front lines. And you are definitely on the front line.
Thank you. And it's a pleasure to have you and Black Westchester right there as well. Again, the Sister to Sister International website is the letter S, the number 2, the letter S again, I, Sister to Sister International, S2SI.org. And you can go online and find the Black Business Directory. You can go online and donate. You can go online and become a member. You can go online and find out about all of our different programs. You can go online to become a member of a work group. You may want to become a community partner. So all of the website leads you to all of the ways that you can become involved and get your children involved with the STEAM Academy.
Again, thank you for your time. I greatly appreciate you. And again, even though this was a recap of the State of the Union, I definitely want to celebrate you. And again, like my mother said, give me my flowers while I'm alive to smell them. I'm one to celebrate you and give you your flowers and all the work that you do. And I enjoy highlighting it and documenting, your journey and with your powerful organization. I mean, powerful. If y'all don't know about this organization, look it up. They offer a lot of things. They do a lot of things. Definitely, I recommend. So, with that said, any last words?
No, I just want to say thank you to you and certainly commend you on the great work that Black Westchester is doing in terms of being a beacon in our community and helping us to get the word out and being a major communications vehicle. So, we all know that with this work, it's not all, top dollar work, and most of it is volunteer. So, when you go the extra mile to try to pull people together and get the word out, that certainly is to be applauded. So again, thank you to both you and certainly Black Westchester.
Thank you. And with that, that is our show. This is our first ever. This is part 2 of our first ever State of the Union address recap. Part 1 was with Dr. Stephen Poe, and part 2 with my sister Cheryl Brannan. This will be up on Black Westchester within a half hour. Thank you very much, my sister, and you have a blessed day.
Thank you, and you too. Have a good one. Okay,
All
thank
right.
you very much.